Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, the political battle in Trinidad and Tobago has grown more intense. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar strongly criticized Opposition Leader Pennelope Beckles. The argument centers on Opposition Senator John Bates, who confessed to altering a parliamentary document using computer tracking tools. Although the senator offered her resignation amid public anger, which was the right thing to do, Beckles has refused to officially accept it for 2 weeks. The question is why? Who is advising this opposition leader? Who is really the opposition leader at this point in time? Because we see a whole lot more of Zamyong in the public domain than and statements coming out from Zamyong than even Beckles most of the times. In response, the Senate voted to remove John Bates from an important security committee and sent her case to a disciplinary pain. Persad-Bissessar claims the opposition leader is too weak to make her own decisions. It appears to be so. While Beckles insists the Prime Minister has no right to interfere in her party's internal affairs. But you all used to be doing it, but you all continue to do it up to now when it pertains to UNC. Boldface is the PNM, you know. Double standard is the PNM, boldface is the PNM. My response, PNM patriots would have been demanding immediate action if a UNC member was involved in this scandal. The Kakash media would have been expressing anger about this issue every night on the 7 p.m. news as well, instead of appearing to be impartial and professional as they've been portraying themselves to be when it concerns this particular case. You can imagine Rhea Rambali on a 7 p.m. newscast talking about UNC leader refusing to remove a senator after committing such a serious act. You can imagine Rhea's face. Boy, I tell you, people could say I over exaggerating. Every time Rhea has to talk about Kamla, that facial expression changes. So just imagine in a case like this. But when she talk about the precious PNM, oh gosh, she just looks so impartial. Sometimes she might even put on a little smile or a little concern, not outrage. During a parliamentary debate on Wednesday, Attorney General John Jeremy revealed that a national security incident the previous Friday led to a heightened protection for government officials and increased security for parliamentarians, so I guess parliamentarians in general. Jeremy stated he was explicitly authorized by the Commissioner of Police to disclose the information, noting that the security threat was sparked by a gang member within a within a PNM constituency. You know, the same constituencies where the PNM patriots and even the Kakash media tend to tell people don't discriminate and don't stereotype. No one is stereotyping. We are using statistical facts. Most of the crimes here in Trinidad and Tobago, most of the murders take place in these PNM constituencies. That's why they're considered hotspots. That is just the reality. But you see, that's the sad thing about it. We're living in a time and in an era where just speaking facts is considered to be discriminative. My response, since the TTPS cannot be relied upon to give credible information, all government ministers should seek confirmation from the Commissioner of Police before making any statements about crime in Parliament, like what John Jeremy did. Was Wayne Sturge misled by members of the police service when he made his so-called controversial statement in Parliament recently? Did they give him wrong information? What was it actually their initial theory that the two cases were related? Because that's what was reported, I'm telling you, in the Kakash 7 p.m. news report days ago. That it was the TTPS that assumed that the both cases were related in the two mass shootings. Right? And then they turned around and basically threw Wayne Sturge under the bus. They made it look as though, well, I don't know what you're talking about. The Commissioner of Police, I have nothing to say about it. And then the TTPS come out and say, well, no, that theory is incorrect. The two shootings, the two murder cases are unrelated and all kind of stuff like that. Instead of, but the thing about it is, the media, a journalist, I'm telling you, just for a couple seconds in a video, stated that it was the TTPS that had that theory, that opinion initially. So why the TTPS doesn't come out and say that again and say, no, you all cannot continue to bash the minister like that. We gave the minister that information initially, but of course now we believe otherwise. The question is, as I said a couple of days ago, why have they changed that theory, that opinion so quickly when they're still conducting investigations and interviews? Why are you just believing what certain individuals telling you? How it is you know for a fact that the information that you are being provided with from witnesses is correct, TTPS. And this is why Winston is correct when he exposed and spoke about, highlighted the fact that the detection rate within the TTPS is extremely low. It's embarrassing. It's terrible. It's probably one of the lowest in the entire world. And that is why most of the gang-related cases here in Trinidad and Tobago remain unsolved. In spite of an SOA, though, still remains unsolved.
This country right now is at war. No borders have been crossed, to use the words of Kennedy, and there are no marching troops. But we have declared a state of emergency. We have renewed that state of emergency, and we have declared a state of emergency again. That is our declaration of war. Mr. Speaker, it's been said that the purpose of all war is, in fact, peace. We seek peace. Peace across the length and breadth of this country. In every village, town, and city, and in every neighborhood. Even as we wage what Augustine described to be a war of necessity, a just war that is aimed at securing a lasting peace for all of our citizens, we see clearly that we are not prepared to descend into the anarchy that characterized days in office. We are not prepared to do that. Ours is not a one-dimensional approach to the war against gangs and the criminal elements. They know, as much as they pretend not to know, that by now our targets in this war are gangs, criminal enterprises. And those gangs, I agree with my colleague from Toko Sandigrandi, are sometimes located in Bella Road, Serrano Road, and so on. He and I have roots. And the member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West has none. But it should come as no surprise to them, because they know this. They know this, that the gangs are also located in West Moorings, in Goodwood Park, and in some of the other places. I would not say who are the representatives for those areas. But what I would say is this. And those who wish to send copies of Hansard, police, he got his yesterday. He was supposed to get it since last week. He got it yesterday from our sitting whenever. this is what I'm going to say now. I am authorized by the Commissioner of Police to say that last Friday, a member of one of those gangs in that community sparked a national security incident such that all of us in this parliament were protected to a higher degree, and certain officials in the government were given additional protection. I am authorized by the Commissioner of Police. Don't worry to send Hansard to him. I spoke to him and he said I could see that.
Trinidad and Tobago weather report Thursday 14th May 2026. General conditions. Sunny, hazy and breezy day with a maximum temperature of 32 degrees Celsius. The daytime will be sunny, hazy and breezy overall. Expect the odd brisk shower to develop during the afternoon. The nighttime will be fair but remaining hazy with a light breeze. Winds will blow east to east-southeast at speeds of 5 to 35 km per hour with occasional higher gusts. Temperature range 25 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees. Cheat index feels like 35 degrees. Humidity 60% to 90%. Sunrise and sunset 5:40 a.m. to 6:18 p.m. Marine forecast. Seas will be moderate in open waters. Waves will range from 1.5 meters to 2.5 meters in open waters and stay around 1.5 meters in sheltered areas. Swell will be 0.5 meters to 1.0 meters with a period of 7 to 10 seconds. Spring tides remain in effect and mariners should exercise normal caution.
Regional news now. U.S. Undersecretary for Economic Affairs Jacob Helberg arrived in Guyana on Wednesday to strengthen bilateral trade ties and support the nation's ongoing economic expansion at an exponential rate, I will add. Helberg immediately met with President Dr. Irfan Ali and senior officials at State House to discuss strategic partnerships in energy infrastructure, artificial intelligence, and regional logistics. Yes, people, wise leaders, draw closer, form a closer relationship with America because they know that they are the greatest trading partners that we could have in this Western Hemisphere. The high-level visit, which marks the start of a broader tour through Central America and the Caribbean, aims to unlock new opportunities for American private sector investment while securing critical mineral supply chains in the region. 2 Jamaican police constables were acquitted of murder on Wednesday after the presiding judge ruled that the prosecutors failed to present a legally sufficient case to support a conviction. Because the judge upheld the defense's no case submissions and directed the jury to enter formal verdicts of acquittal, the legal principle of double jeopardy prevents a retrial, meaning constables Domain Campbell and Kenroy Hines are now permanently freed. So even if they did commit the crime, because of what? Incompetence on the part of these prosecutors, potential criminals, individuals who could have probably committed a very serious crime, will live the rest of their lives free. I'm telling you, and a lot of times these kind of cases occur quite often in the Caribbean, especially for some strange reason when the perpetrators are police officers. Acknowledging that physical planning, which falls under his ministerial portfolio, is a delicate issue, Minister Nigel Stevenson said on radio yesterday that over the years, many people have developed a sense of lawlessness when it comes to building practices in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The government minister said that while he understands the financial constraints, now you don't really understand it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be making a statement in the first place. But anyhow, I mean, I can understand if it is people really building homes and it isn't built in a proper a way that it actually is secure and could withstand hurricanes and natural disasters and stuff. I can understand that to an extent, boy. But poor people, when they put up a whole shack, when they put up a whole board house, you want to go and what? Charge them for doing that? Well, you're telling you, politicians tend to really don't show any kind of empathy, show any kind of consideration for the poor people outside here, Anyhow. The government minister said that while he understands the financial constraints faced by some individuals who choose to build homes without approved plans, it is not something he would advise. Minister Stevenson said that since assuming office and responsibility for the portfolio, many people have approached him with issues related to physical planning and construction. However, he stressed that persons must follow the law. Everything is the law, noting that he will not undermine the work of his own ministry. Yeah, so you care about the law that a poor man having a roof over his head. This is what I cannot cope with when it pertains to politicians, no matter the political party. Because most likely, this new party in Vincent and the Grenadines is a much better option than the opposition. The former PNM ally in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But at the end of the day, people, it just goes to show how politicians in general, they are detached from reality when it pertains to poverty. The poor man, as I told you before, when they put up a little galvanized shack, when they put up a little wood house, you want to go and what? Demolish it because they didn't have a proper plan to build it?
You know, they're struggling to get their friends to come and help them. And a lot of them build without having a plan. Mm-hmm. So they just build as they go along. You have an idea and you have people to try to make that a reality to you. And I notice a lot of them, when you talk to them, they don't have the means to pay for a plan, right? And they construct. And when they construct without an approved plan, they're actually breaking the law. And people from the planning department would come and they would ask you whether or not you have a plan, and you have to show them the plan. If you don't, then they give you an enforcement order. So when you do that and you see they have a long paper there, with all sort of thing right on it, it is called an enforcement order that you have to cease. And if you don't cease construction, then it tells you what can happen, you know, as a penalty.
Right, a consequence.
And as a consequence. And I need to tell our people that if you're constructing, you have to try your very best to, if you're building close to the main road, 20 feet away from the main road, Johnny P. Right? And the physical planning could be a little more lenient and say to you, well, if you build 15 feet away from the road, then we're going to be, that's acceptable to us, you know? And also, from the side, from your boundary, from your neighbor's boundary, you must not build, you know, well, you must stay about 4 feet away from that boundary mark. You understand? So, if people stay within that particular parameter, then all is going to be well. I mean, it's my responsibility. Physical planning falls under my portfolio. And it would be undermining my own ministry if I'm going to tell you to go ahead with a particular project, knowing that you don't have the requisite plan and all of these things. So I'm asking all people to try your very best to see if you can get somebody to do a plan for you and submit it to physical planning. Maybe at that point, we can get one of the persons there, the board, to come and say, okay, then, guide you and say, you need to make a little adjustment here. We'll work with you to see how we can facilitate the construction of your structure.
33 officials who helped secure Barbados' removal from major international financial watch lists were honored at State House on Wednesday with the country's third highest awards. The awardees formed part of the teams that led Barbados off the Financial Action Task Force grey list and the European Union's blacklist of high-risk jurisdictions. So, of course, that is good news once again coming out from Barbados.
I want to offer my sincerest congratulations to you on what I consider to be a very significant achievement. It is significant because it is the third highest honor in the order of Barbados, following the freedom of Barbados and the order of the Republic. That is something to be very, very proud of. I also want to congratulate you and thank you for your outstanding service, because that is what brought you this high honor. Years of outstanding, dedicated service, years of sacrifice on behalf of the country, and we all are very, very proud of what you've been able to do and to achieve.
thank you, first of all, Your Excellency, for allowing this special ceremony to take place today. You said it's a few months later than would have been expected. But I do recall that at the time when the other awardees were given their presentation, I don't think if we had done this at that moment that we would have been able to truly see the impact of the work that each of you would have made in terms of being able to bring stability to this island. And for that, I want to say that the country owes you a debt of gratitude for the dedication, for the commitment, for, I'm sure, the long hours of unbroken service. I see you nodding, yes, that you have given, the sacrifice that you have made in terms of your families, I'm sure, to be able to make sure that we have been able as a country not only to be taken off of the grey list, but also the black list, to allow for Barbados' international business sector to be able to grow once again and to be stable. It has allowed us to be able to have investors certainly turning their attention back to Barbados. And again, for that, I think we are truly thankful, and we have seen the benefits over the course of the last few months.
Prime Minister Philip Davis celebrated a historic consecutive victory after guiding his ruling party to a second term in Tuesday's snap general election in Bahamas, while simultaneously expressing deep concern over low voter turnout. And that's a sad reality across the world, and especially in the Caribbean. For some reason, a lot of citizens no longer feel the desire to exercise the constitutional right to vote. A lot of us have valid reasons. I myself am not really sure if I will be voting in 2030, because I was definitely disappointed with the new taxes and fees and fines and certain promises that were made by the UNC that were not kept, and excuses that were made, like the increasing of the fines. I didn't mind if they increased the fines for the speeding and reckless driving and DUIs, but the other minor fines, no, that was total nonsense, and some other things. Nevertheless, I do believe that the UNC government is doing a much better job than the PNM, and I hope they do win in 2030. It's just that I personally don't know if I will be voting in 2030. And a lot of people feel that same way. They share that same sentiment. And so therefore, that low voter turnout in Bahamas is something that has been taking place throughout the entire Caribbean. Nevertheless, congratulations to Prime Minister Philip Davis. In a few months, I guess, I will be able to determine if this man is really, in my opinion, my humble opinion, if this man leans more on the PNM side of politics, style of governance, on the UNC, more capitalist, more conservative style of governance, which is the much better option. Addressing a crowd of supporters at a celebratory rally, Davis welcomed the win as the first time a Bahamian leader has secured back-to-back terms in nearly 30 years, according to local news updates. However, he tempered the celebration by warning that declining voter participation is unhealthy for the democratic fabric of the nation, pledging to work toward ensuring every citizen feels that their vote matters. Now, bear in mind, he's 100% correct, because to preserve democracy, people, you need to go out and vote. And as much as I am feeling kind of despondent and reluctant to vote in 2030, I know basically, to an extent, not basically, it is my civic duty. As a citizen of a democracy, you're supposed to go out and vote. Otherwise, as people, less and less people vote, you make it much easier for socialism, for a socialist party to win, and socialism, because they tend to have their faithful voters. They're just like PNM here in Trinidad. Their faithful voters a lot of times go out and vote, although 1/3 didn't vote this time. But they tend to still go out and vote, and they have a much better chance of winning than the capitalist or the conservative parties. You always need an overwhelming voter turnout for the conservative parties in order to win. So people, to preserve democracy, you need to go out and vote.
We want a country in which all of you and your children and your grandchildren will thrive. They have promised you much, and I promise you that every bone in my body and every beat of my heart, we will do all that we can to deliver.
But still, a major cloud hanging over the election was the dismal voter turnout, just as it did in 2021 when the Davis-led PLP was first elected. Prime Minister Davis accepts that the scale of his victory does not diminish the need for higher electoral participation.
This is not good for the democratic fabric of our society. We must do all that we can to ensure that every Bahamian in every election feels that their vote counts.
Nonetheless, the Bahamas joins other regional countries such as Jamaica, Barbados, and Antigua that saw governments re-elected. The Davis administration has highlighted what it calls progress on energy reform, tackling crime, landing dozens of foreign direct investments, infrastructural upgrades, and giving more attention to family islands. But the Davis administration hasn't had a perfect term, facing scathing scrutiny over overspending and the abuse of taxpayer dollars, buyouts for the politically connected, while union unrest remained the order of the day. Whether those issues and others resulted in voters casting their ballots against the PLP, Davis says their concerns haven't fallen on deaf ears.
I've listened to you. I've heard you. And I want you to know that I will continue to work hard for all Bahamians, as I've sought to do these past years.
The governing PLP has secured 33 of the 41 seats, losing their leader of government business and Freetown Member of Parliament Wayne Monroe, while other political hopefuls missed the mark. However, Davis, Cooper, and the rest of the team continue to defend its first term while looking to use its second term to make its case to the voters, potentially in 2031. Jose Etienne, Eyewitness News.
International news now. Capitol Hill lawmakers are clashing over President Donald Trump's proposal to suspend the federal gas tax as escalating tensions from the war with Iran push national fuel prices past an average US $4.50 per gallon. Congressional Democrats have heavily criticized the administration, blaming the conflict for the economic strain and calling for an immediate end to the war rather than what they term a temporary gimmick. They want America to end the war with radical jihadist Iran. Iran had wants to continue to build nuclear weapons, enrich uranium to build nuclear weapons, to attack America and Israel and other nations, other Western civilization nations. That's what Democrats want, I'm telling you, they don't ever think with logic, Something is seriously wrong with that leftist, socialist side. Meanwhile, Republicans remain sharply divided on the issue, with some backing the 18.4 cent tax holiday, while others argue it offers no guaranteed consumer relief and risks depleting vital federal infrastructure funding. But something has to be done. I'm sure that's probably the QAnon. Few QAnon people that don't really want to support the war to begin with. Because the reality is, Trump needs to finish the job in Iran. You cannot continue to delay things by trying to have negotiations with these terrorists. They have made it clear to you over and over again. They want control of the Strait of Hormuz, and also they want you to lift all sanctions and allow them to continue to enrich uranium. In other words, they want everything in their way. They want to have the cake and eat it too. And that cannot be allowed. To counter aggressive cyber espionage, the Trump administration officials and top corporate executives have left their personal phones behind during their trip to China. Travelers from the delegation, along with leaders from Apple, Boeing, and BlackRock, have stripped down clean devices, temporary laptops, and pre-approved chargers. Chargers too, right? Anyhow, security experts warn that any personal electronics brought into the country face immediate compromise through rigged Wi-Fi networks and altered charging ports. Wow, that's why they said about the chargers too. China dread, boy. Wow, but not in a good way, though. But anyhow, by restricting data access and using disposable hardware, the group aims to block state-sponsored hackers from stealing sensitive government and corporate secrets. And there's the same China. I know I love China, but we're talking about the Chinese government, communist government. This is the same Chinese communist government that tribal trainees and individuals around the whole Caribbean love and worship. They despise Western civilization leaders, democratic leaders, and worship the communists instead, like Chavez and President Xi and Putin, and former leaders and deceased leaders like Idi Amin and Mugabe. My goodness, I'm telling you, tribalism clouds people's minds so much that they don't even think properly anymore. The Israeli Military and Security Agency, ISA, eliminated Hamza Sharabasi, a Hamas Nukba commander who participated in the deadly October 7th raid on the Nahal Oz military outpost. Sharabasi, a commander in the Hamas Shuja'iyah battalion, was targeted in northern Gaza by a precise Israeli Air Force strike. You hear the word precise? Yeah, the IDF, Israel doesn't just randomly send rockets and so forth into civilian areas. They target specific individuals or groups, terrorist groups. Intelligence confirmed he directly participated in the initial border breach and assault where numerous IDF soldiers were killed and abducted from the base. According to military officials, he was recently operating near the border zone to orchestrate fresh attacks against Israeli forces. A second Nukba operative, Azam al-Haya, was also killed in the same aerial strike. Terrorists. And these are the individuals that the tribal trainees and people around the Caribbean support and call them freedom fighters. Terrorists, terrorists that boldly go and murder, massacre unarmed citizens or even military officers that weren't actually in battle. They murder them. And then our tribal trainees and Caribbean people call them freedom fighters. Bible said it, In the last days, evil will be considered good, and good will be considered evil.
Bible quote of the day. Acts 26:20-23 NIV, first to those in Damascus, then to those in Jerusalem and in all Judea, and then to the Gentiles, I preached that they should repent and turn to God and demonstrate their repentance by their deeds. That is why some Jews seized me in the temple courts and tried to kill me. But God has helped me to this very day, so I stand here and testify to small and great alike. I am saying nothing beyond what the prophets and Moses said would happen, that the Messiah would suffer and, as the first to rise from the dead, would bring the message of light to his own people and to the Gentiles. In Acts 26:20-23, the Apostle Paul delivers his Christ-centered legal defense before King Agrippa, summarizing his global mission, his arrest, and the core message of the Christian gospel.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.